what all happened. Oh wait, you missed the weekend? Oh no. Who wants to tell
Uh,
him?
Army did a thing, or at least tried to.
Oh, he did a thing. Your sister was getting married and you chose to go watch that instead of Ginger's The
Mango.
Big One run? But if you actually don't know, I'll break down the situation as quickly as I can. I had to play against Army, round 1 of top 64, which is fine. You know, it's a little unfortunate that he lives on the West Coast and I live in the Midwest, and our connection is probably going to be not fucking amazing, but life goes on. The tournament's probably going to require me to beat like 10 people on the West Coast if I'm going to get the summit spot anyway. So, I have to play against Army, and it's not just a bad connection. It was literally, the game was just freezing over and over again. It would just like pause, then it would keep going. Pause, keep going. Which, from what I understand, generally is kind of correlated with computer issues, not necessarily network issues. But it could also be some crazy fucking terrible network issues. So I asked the TOs before the set started. I said, hey, this connection is really bad. I don't really know what we do about this. The TO said, well, one of you can DQ or you guys play it out. And I was like, well, neither of us are going to voluntarily DQ, so I guess we play it. But like, it was what I would deem unplayable. So we play game 1, I barely win, it's fucking terrible. Game 2 happens, it's close, he wins. Game 3, not close at all. It's just my screen's fucking freezing the entire time. After game 3, my Discord's open on my second screen. So I see that 2Saint is asking for a connection test. And I was like, wait, I didn't think that was an option. They told me that one of us could DQ or nothing, or we play it out. So I was like, wait, I thought there weren't connection tests. And they're like, no, there are. And I was like, well, I would love one right now. And they're like, sure. They ended up having us continue playing because the connections were similar enough. I don't know if you know this, but I've never asked for a connection test, ever. So this is like, I thought it was really important, and I thought it was quite literally the worst connection that I've had. And so they had us play it out. I lose game 3, and now I'm in losers. Of round 1 of top 64, I'm in losers literally because of the connection. So that fucking sucks, right? Wow, I have a chance to get to Summit, and keep in mind, if you go to losers round 1 of top 64, the amount of sets you have to play to get to grand finals is like double the amount you would have had to play in winners, which is fucking crazy. So that's rough, you know? But it gets worse, because Army goes on to play Zamu, and Zamu's set, for some reason, is stuck 2 games to 0, and they're just sitting there for 45 minutes. I wonder what's going on. Well, a connection test, because Army's internet is acting up, and Zamu doesn't think it's very playable. Army essentially throws a fit. Zamu feels bad because he feels like maybe his buffer bloat isn't perfect anyway, so they end up agreeing to play it out once again. So Army has made it now to Winners Top 8 qualifier. So the round right before Winners Semi, so Winners Quarters. He makes it to Winners Quarters, and he has to play against 2Saint. And wouldn't you know it, in their hand warmer, 2Saint says, yo, this is literally unplayable, I'm not doing this. And they said, sorry Army, we have to DQ you, this like can't keep happening. And if this keeps happening in top 8, it's just awful, we have to DQ you. And he literally says, how do you know it's me? Keep in mind, his the winners finals of his pool from the day prior, who lived in the West Coast, also had connection issues with him. So even before I had complained, someone had already complained to TOs about the whole thing. So they double DQ Army out of the tournament. But it would have been a lot nicer if they had double DQ'd him out of the tournament when I had to play him. So instead, I was in losers bracket for literally no reason. Made a pretty crazy losers run, beating like 7 different people, and then eventually losing to SGJ, which is whatever. I wasn't mentally able to recover from anything that fucking happened to me. So yep, it was pretty terrible.
Hey, Minecraft.
Minecraft! What's up, Kumar? Kumar, by the way, was a big proponent of trying to keep Army in the tournament.
Wow.
He was like, fuck Ginger. That guy sucks. Everybody deserves to lose. He's just a better player.
I'm going to host Levo.
Yep, bye. Levo time. Could Melee benefit from a CS/Valorant style of commentary where we had play-by-play during matches and analysis between sets?
So here's the thing, right? In order to properly do that, you're gonna want to have replays able to be pulled up immediately.
They have that technology.
That takes. I mean, you have the technology, but that takes an additional level of production that needs to happen. Well, in theory, what you'd do is you'd have whoever your analysts are like press a fucking button when something has happened that
They
they
have a
are
clip
going to
that
want to talk
button.
about.
They have a
Yeah,
clip
no,
that
they
button.
legitimately have like a clip now button, and then the production just pulls up the clip automatically.
I mean,
So depends on if we're talking about reality or like theory world, because I think that in reality I have given up all hope that we will receive any good play-by-play, at least in my lifetime. But in theory land, it could be really cool. Also, analysis between is really hard. They showed really cool content between sets at the big one, and everyone fucking hated it. Where's my melee? Play the fucking set. Why are we watching YouTube videos? I was here for the tournament. Why isn't anybody here? Why are the commentators talking about nothing?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, the casual fucking viewer is the only person you're. That's the whole point of broadcasting it.
Is the accurate opinion of the casual viewer represented in Twitch chat? Because I would contend it is not.
I
Yeah,
agree
that's
that
what
this
I
might
agree.
not be the case, but I do think that if there's like an overwhelming majority of like people saying these things while they're going on, I think that's in general probably indicative of something. Maybe not
Well, yeah,
though. Maybe it's a
well,
really
okay.
loud minority of people that hate
Well,
the
then why
content.
does- Okay,
Well,
so then
and
why
to be
does when
fair-
BTS does it at like summits, people love it?
Because they expect it from BTS.
Yeah, it is.
Then
It
you
is
took it
about
as a stream
expectations.
Because you want to see that extra content.
what if they had 2 streams? One where just like, you know, some random dude who's really loud pops off every time there's like a Falcon knee. And then
I've said
the
that
other
before.
So we got
I've said
Hungry
that
Box to
before.
commentate.
No,
we got
haven't they
Hungry
been?
Box to commentate one stream, and then we've got like, you know,
Well, haven't they been doing that for
analysts on
baseball?
the other. For
Like, isn't that a
baseball?
thing
I
that's
don't know.
legitimately been happening? They've been having like a more like analytical / like game-focused stream on like ESPN2 or some bullshit, and then like the normal commentators on just ESPN. Like, I think this is a
So we
thing
have
that
like the
has
Star
actually
and
been
Brandon
happening.
show, and then we have
I
like the
don't know,
Token
um,
Lovett show.
Yeah,
My only
exactly.
ex-
Yeah, no, I think like actual leagues have sort of experimented with that sort of thing, having multiple feeds.
It used to be. I used to do group analysis or like just like duo analysis with a practice partner of mine back in the day, and we would just watch pro matches every night after every Smash session. We would always be like, wait, back that up. Like, oh, why is PP doing this? And then we'd be like, oh shit, he's doing it because of this,
Is it
and this.
daytime?
So we'd realize like the thought process behind all that.
There's basically no good way to tell what a crowd actually wants without doing a survey of them. So like tournament organizers have to base their opinion on what they see in Twitch chat because there's no other way
Right.
for them to see anything.
Which is terrible and horribly indicative. The other thing, I'm not going to say that I have legitimately screenshotted this entire call, but if I see any of you fucks in any tournament chat shitting on analysis content or any other content like that, you will feel my wrath.
Just you want it to become a thing.
Oh, what a thing. Like the analysis,
Analysis
content?
content, yeah.
Absolutely, I do.
Well, do you remember the analyst desk at Big House 5, I think it was, or maybe 6? People didn't like that either.
I know.
But I do think it comes with the expectation of what we're used to, right? Because we're used
People
to
are
just
afraid
like,
of change.
oh, Mango versus H-Box, and then literally 3 minutes later, we're going to get Armada versus Mewtwo And then, you know, that's just how life goes. It's constant action. It's fucking cool.
Right.
Now-
do you also remember some of the earlier summits where they were like, wow, there is so much downtime in between sets? Now, Summit is... Nobody complains about that. I think it's about conditioning people to think and expect certain things. And if we start slow, I think we can build into that play-by-play versus analysis style of commentary. And I think that would go a long way towards improving Melee's commentary.
I think you could market a tournament series as being like for players who want to learn / know more about the game.
I think you could too.
As long as you marketed it that way, you would get people watching who would be perfectly fine with watching that.
Okay, I have to say a couple things. I've thought about all this stuff so much. There are a lot of good ideas in Melee that fail because I guess they're not marketed well enough, or they just aren't interesting enough to get enough people involved. Like, the community is too small that essentially you need it to be unanimously interesting, or else it's just bound to fail. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. I use this my example a lot, but my Learn to Fly tournament series was one of the best ideas in the delay-based netcode era that I think I've ever come across. I don't think any streamer was doing anything that interesting with their subscribers. I don't think people were putting out that style of analytical content.
Yeah, the most that they do is just like sub tournaments. That's about it.
Yeah, and
They weren't doing that back then.
they weren't even doing that back then. This was quite literally one of the first sub
Yeah,
tournaments
but
ever.
like even nowadays, that's all they do.
Exactly, absolutely. And so I thought it was really cool. And I got like 4 entrants for my first one. And it was like, oh, okay. And I got like, 60
You know what the
viewers.
problem
And it's
was?
like, fuck? I'm average like 100 viewers. What was
Do
my
you wanna
problem?
know what
Nate?
the problem was?
Yes.
You didn't have me TOing it.
The TOing didn't matter because there were 4 people.
I'm just saying, every tournament that I've TO'd for you has popped the fuck off.
It would have been the best tournament those 4 people have ever entered.
That's
Yeah,
true.
Probably would have.
I think that idea I had was really good, but I don't think that it was interesting enough to be like unanimously interesting. I think it was interesting to a niche set of the community, and so it never really got off the ground. Never popped off. You know what is interesting? Fucking Ludwig $1,000 money matching SFAT in Connect 4. Like, cool. Let's send over 1,000 viewers for that, and whatever, you know? But analytical style stuff for Melee, a lot of people just don't find as interesting as I wish they did.
It's also harder to tune into that kind of thing. Like, you actually have to think when you're doing analytical stuff. You have to turn your brain on. For Connect 4, you're just watching someone else play Connect 4. You don't have to turn your brain on for
Yeah,
that.
you're waiting for the pause.
Easy viewing.
Yeah.
Easy viewing. People want easy viewing. And so, like, that's the part about the play-by-play that matters, I think. You just give a play-by-play, that's super easy. Anybody can tune into that. Anybody can pay attention to that. If you still want the analysis, you still get that between sets. And especially in, like, a summit-style setting where there's going to be that downtime anyway because content, because advertisers, that's just a really good way to fill that time, I think. I just think more tournaments should be following that style of, we're going to have some downtime between sets. This is what we're going to fill it with. And no, I'm not just saying this from the perspective of a stream runner who, if we did do stuff like this, it would make my job 10,000% easier.
Yeah, the thing is, it still, even from a production side, still takes a lot of coordination and probably hiring extra people to do jobs.
Potentially disagree on extra people, but it does take more coordination. I will agree with that.
Yeah, you don't have to get more people, but you also
just,
need
like,
people that are multifaceted, right?
Right. You would not necessarily need more people. You would just take the same people who are already doing one job and repurpose them to do another job.
You can't hire any of the people who only do one of those 2 jobs.
Well, you wouldn't have any of those people, or you wouldn't
That's
hire
what
them.
I'm saying. You can't hire them. Like,
Cool.
you've reduced your potential pool of people.
No, you haven't. Trust me. No, you absolutely haven't. The people that are wanting work would learn to do both jobs very quickly. Perfect example. Instead of me going around and running around and finding 30 different matches to fill an hour, I would find 10 matches to fill that hour, and then I would go between the streams and I would work with them on all the analytical stuff. Hey, we need this clip. Hey, remember to get this clip. Yada, yada, yada. You would just repurpose the job that I would do, or whoever else would do.
Going back to like how community feedback affects, whether we do analytics or not. Why does it work in other esports but not Melee? Is it a cultural thing? And
Probably
if it's
partially.
cultural, couldn't we expect enough of it being present to slowly change our viewer base or change the opinions of culture? We've had that for years, right? Where it's just like, Scarntor for expert casters and that they have very good synergy. They have some play-by-play and some insight, but a lot of it's that they're very personable and fun to listen to. So if that's what our community's used to, maybe analytics will get pushed back, and maybe we don't want to invest because we're already shoestringed for most tournaments. But maybe long-term analytics could be better for the scene and would be more popular. But short-term, it's gonna suck.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, right? Trust me, I am the guy who likes analytical content, so I wish there was more of it. Like I said, I have given up. I actually think that I did a pretty good job of bringing analytical style commentary to Melee matches, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's actually a very popular opinion. There's a lot of people that still think you're one of the best commentators, myself included, no bias. But part of the reason why, one, I came here when I heard SFAT talking about it, I'm like, I know Ginger has an opinion on this and I value his opinion. And two, the reason why people didn't pop the fuck off for you is because for whatever fucking reason, Reddit and a lot of the community have a hate boner for you.
So the thing is, I do think I have a decent amount of haters or whatever, and like the people that hate me are seemingly the loud ones, but I do have way more people that are like fans of me than people that hate me, which is cool. But yeah, I don't know, there's support for that kind of stuff. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, so that's why a lot of people didn't like immediately latch onto your analysis commentary. And the other thing about that is I can't have you doing analysis commentary because on the greater whole of Melee, I need you as a competitor.
I don't know how you guys feel about it, and I haven't listened to a ton of it, but I know that people's biggest critique of PP right now is that he talks over his co-commentator the entire time. I saw some remarks that he was getting better about that for this tournament that just happened, but I still saw it as a pretty common thing that people didn't like. He's the closest thing we've got to like a player turned commentator, you know?
Like, I think that's something you probably learn as you get better at commentary,
Uh-huh.
is how to properly like have back and forths like that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's gonna be some people, just like there's some people who are way better at providing hype commentary than like talking about the game. There's gonna be some other people that are just way better at like having ideas about analysis than they are at actually like doing commentary.
I told you guys I had given up, right, on good analytical commentary being a part of Melee, which is a really pessimistic view, right? Like, I could say, well, maybe PPMD will be able to transition to a point where he's able to communicate with his co-commentator, but still add bits of analytical things that are interesting to the average viewer, but also interesting to the in-depth top player at the same time. Maybe he's able to juggle all those things at once. I don't know. I'm really pessimistic about it. But yeah, it's possible.
It's really hard to do. Yeah.
What do you think would be easier? Teaching a good commentator to learn analytics, or teaching a good analytical person to do commentary?
What do you mean when you say
that's a good
commentary?
question.
I think Melee is a difficult game to learn how to play well, right? Learning how to understand some of the nuances of neutral game enough that like a two-tour could learn something and a layman could understand it. I think that's very doable. Like, you don't actually have to be good at Melee to understand it. And actually, there's a lot of good players who don't understand a lot of things about Melee. And the first thing that comes to mind is Toussaint misunderstanding how L canceling works while he's top 30.
I think there are a
you
lot
could
of
totally
examples.
teach.
I mean, if you really, the best examples, by the
Fox
way,
and-
are Hungrybox. Yeah, Hungrybox
Yeah.
doesn't know anything. He's like, so you got to realize that Fox's side B is faster than Falco's. He literally said that in a commentary on one of my sets. And it's like, bro, how have you played Melee for this long thinking that that's the case? Hello?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you don't need to be good at Melee to understand it. So I think you could definitely teach a good commentator some stuff about Melee that they could put in game, right? Like any matchup, you don't need to know every intricacy, but if you can understand like some full hop drift baits from Fox, like some laser timings or some laser mix-ups with Falco, and that's very complicated in depth and to actually apply in game. But understanding, oh, he did laser approaching laser this time, and he read that he do laser aerial, and his dash back got caught. Oh, like you could teach that to any O2 shitter, and if they sound good enough on the mic, people will pop off over the high level analysis.
I don't know
I
if this is
wouldn't
going to be
expect-
helpful to the conversation at all, but I wanted to offer my perspective on how I go about commentary. So the way I go about commentary is I think about interesting things that are going on or that have happened in important situations, right? And I store those in my brain while my co-commentator is talking. And then I say, something interesting that that I've noticed is that this is happening, and we might actually see that happen even more. Are you ruining everything? So I talk about the importance of why I'm bringing up that situation, how we might see it again. And I think that that's something that is really cool that needs to be brought to the table. But what happens is a lot of people, when they're trying to do analytical styles of commentary, notice a thing and need to talk about it right now because it just happened, and if we don't talk about it immediately, it's going to leave everybody's brain, and I can't explain it to everybody. They have to see that it just happened. So I have to cut off my co-commentator and just go for it. And it's like, well, now we've just broken all form of like whatever synergy we ever could have hoped to have had. Things get really awkward. I don't know. So I feel like people
also
can...
becomes harder to play off of that style of commentary as the co-commentator.
Yeah, absolutely. So my whole point here is that teaching people to relay the information, even just at the right times, is a difficult thing to do. There's a million things that go into when and how you need to relay that information that actually makes it really difficult. But Melee's a really complicated game, so I don't know if you could get somebody who's really well versed in like timing and understanding flow to learn that much about the game and be able to bring up that many interesting things.
I also think that's something that a lot of people like don't necessarily realize, because a lot of people who are having this discussion are going to be people who play Melee, and they're going to at least understand on some level how to learn about Melee. But like nobody's talking about this. Well, very few people who are talking about this have experience commentating anything. A lot of people don't realize like how difficult it can be to learn how to be a commentator.
But it's also very difficult to teach someone how to be entertaining.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like, you might know everything about the game, but it is really difficult. I listen to people that I think are decently analytical. I mean, PP&D is a good example. Somebody I obviously admire as somebody who's analytical about the game, but in my very honest opinion, I think flounders hard when it comes to commentary in terms of being able to present the information in some sort of agreeable and interesting fashion.
Well, the thing is, it's a skill like any other that you have to learn and you have to practice, and to some extent, you have to sort of be naturally good at it.
In my limited experience, I felt like bringing up neutral situations immediately wasn't a thing I could do, like my other guys talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead, I just wait until the situation came up again, and if my commentator wasn't talking, give me a sec. Very sorry, I was interrupted by my little sister.
Wow, you're just a shitty commentator.
Yeah, I know. So like I was saying, if a similar situation comes up, right, the same spacing, the same neutral decision, or the same situation comes up and a different decision is made, that is when it's interesting to talk about in the moment, which is when I think it's more interesting to viewers. Because by the time the match is just like over, right, there's all this hype, like, oh my god, Nun did the jab, 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 jab knee, that's so sick, right? After that's happened, a lot of people will like mentally check out for a second because they're just popping off. It's like, yeah, it was really interesting how last stock Nun did the jab, jab, up tilt knee.
Here's the thing.
Right.
What you're saying is great. The real 5-head thing that I think what makes my commentary interesting is that I will talk about the relevant situation, exactly like how you're talking about, but I'll talk about the mix-ups involved and how we might see those actually change as they're happening. And then I'm like, all right, here's that situation coming up right now. If you guys want like a real-time example of this, you can look up my commentary. There was a summit set of Mango versus Axe. And they had this really interesting dynamic where Axe would cross up Mango's shield with a nair. And that's like a really common situation in neutral, but people just see the nair and don't really understand the nuance in what happens afterward. And I said what Mango's doing is he's waiting for the up air after the cross up nair, and so he's holding shield. What we might see Axe do is actually cross up the shield and then turn around and grab to actually punish the shield. Let's see if that happens. And then as it happens, I'm like, there was that exact situation that we went over, and there was the adaptation that I was talking about might have happened. You look like
a prophet. You know?
Yeah, you look like an absolute genius if that
I see that
happens.
so much with Guilty Gear commentary
Roma.
too. Like they look at the corner pressure sequences, and then they go for they actually like list out the character mix-ups that they have options to. And then
Yeah.
They sort of hype it up, see if it'll happen or not.
Yep. And then when it does, you just look like a genius. And if you don't, you were still really analytical, and that was a really interesting thing to think about.
You're
And
like,
maybe,
well, they could have gone.
and then
for
you're
that,
like,
so
yeah,
you play as a
maybe if they
character.
had gone for a little bit more of that cross-up grab, then, you know, maybe we could have seen more success. Or
With the
Show
mix-up.
off how cool they are, right? You can be like, oh, that's even smarter. That's so clever, right?
Yeah, exactly. I
Kinda
hadn't even
like-
considered that. Yeah, there's like a million ways to spin it.
Insert player with a larger following is so smart.
I've given up to the point where I think it's actually just more interesting to hear the people say, "Oh my God, he did
Yeah,
the
exactly.
fucking stomp knee," and the whole chat goes, "Pug champ, Komodo champ, fucking yes,
Counter to forward.
yes, S2J is so fucking sick." Kadoran's so lame. Fucking storylines, storylines and narratives. And then we just like move on with our lives, you know?
Oh
If it
my
gets
god, I
more
so hate
viewers.
how fucking Scar just propagates narratives to like the upteenth degree.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they said fuck you in Twitch chat once. There's so much beef.
Yeah. That was annoying. The thing I really like about Scar's commentary is he's able to talk about and showcase the importance of the set that's going on in front of everybody. He'll be like,
could've
this
hyped
is
it up.
literally the last stock for Nun here. His, 5th place on the line. Winner
He's
goes
gonna
on to play
fucking
Kalamazoo.
die if he doesn't win.
Yeah, it feels, you're like, oh shit, this is really important. Oh God. And I never have any other commentator really make me feel like that. By the way, I do still think that Walt and Radar are our two best commentators right now.
They are so good. They're learning so much too.
Yeah.
They're like,
If I had to give a critique to them, one thing that I think they do better than any commentator right now is they throw to one another. They're like, oh, what do you think about this, Radar? Or like, oh my God, S2J is going for a lot of these knees. Like, that's going to be a real problem in this set. Like, huh, Radar? And they'll like, throw to the other person, which I think is great.
that's something that they actually took from like professional Smash Ultimate commentary. 'Cause that happens so much. If you see like any like major event, you see that the commentators do that exact same thing.
Yep. My critique, though, is that they fucking spam it. And they could probably get away with doing it a little bit less.
Yeah, make it more natural handoff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there can be a natural handoff every now and then.
There can be a little toss. Throw it in
Yep,
there,
yep,
just more
yep.
casual.
I don't know.
figured
As
out.
someone who has a tiny little bit of pull in some majors that may or may not be coming up, I'm listening.
Get into it.